It does also answer a few questions. We were told a few weeks ago, if you remember, that her court case against the Mail on Sunday had been postponed, and she told the judge there was a particular reason why she couldn't come over to England, and that's been put off to the autumn. And newspapers were asked not to report this. I don't think it was actually made public, so it made known to newspapers what the reason was. In fact, a lot of people speculated she was pregnant, but obviously we didn't know she'd had this miscarriage. So very, very sad news, and I'm sure whatever your opinion about Harry and Meghan, people will be sending their love and hoping they recover from this soon.
Lastly, Phil, any idea of the timing, why the Duchess has chosen to write the article today?
Well, this is very interesting. It has been revealed in the last week or so that Harry and Meghan moved their stuff out of Frogmore Cottage, and Princess Eugenie has moved in there. I don't know what the timing is. I mean, there will be speculation. I'm sure there'll be some people on Twitter who'll be a little bit unkind and say, on the one hand, Meghan asks for privacy, and on the other hand, she's now written this extremely personal article. But only she will know why she's done it now. But hopefully it's for the best of reasons, so that it will help other people.
And sympathy quite rightly afforded to her at this time. Phil Dampier, Royal Author, broadcaster and commentator, and obviously good friend to the station. Phil, thank you for that. Let's just look at so that's the story, if you will, and the royal aspect and the journalist side of it. Let's look at the emotional side. Emma Kenny, as a psychologist and a broadcaster, what is the impact for a woman who sustains a miscarriage? Emma, good morning.
Good morning. I mean, I think a lot of the time it's underestimated, I'll be honest. I think that when I speak to women and personal experience in miscarriages, that people almost see it as an individual experience that you just kind of get on with, whereas obviously women have lost a child, and when you get pregnant, any woman will tell you, you've already imagined them in university, in their career, getting married. You plan a life for this baby that you're carrying, so when you lose it, you don't just lose the physical experience of pregnancy, which is full of hormones and all the things with it. You lose potential, you lose that hope, and you lose that possibility. So I think for Meghan, firstly, I understand completely why she's written this publicly, because one of the things that she's always done is try to heighten up the marginalised or individuals who might psychologically struggle, and miscarriage is part of that. So I can perfectly see by that catharsis of sharing this thing that she's chosen to do for other women.
Is there any difference at all for the mum, and possibly the dad, in that they have a child or children already when they sustain the miscarriage?
My personal experience is that it's always very, very difficult and very subjective to each individual. But I think that when a woman has had a child, to some degree, even though that doesn't denote any lesser grief, there is a buffer in the fact that she's got to get up in the morning, she's got to get on with her life and all those things. So I think that would be the primary thing, that it motivates you a little bit to be distracted from the horror. But I also think there's a real underestimation of baby loss. And even though there are lots of charities who talk about it, it does feel very often for women that they're alone. And for men, the guys often have to feel like they're not really able to express their feelings because it's not happened to them. So it can be a real problem in a relationship as well.
And lastly, is it a bit like, I want to express grief, you lose someone, in that it's impossible to say how long the healing period is. For some, it is remarkably brief. For others, it can go on forever. Some possibly never come to terms with it, Emma.
Absolutely, it's definitely subjective. I think the big problem that we do have still is we're not very good at just talking about baby loss in the way that we would be if it had been a parent or a friend, because you haven't got this physical imagery to deal with. You don't necessarily have the relationship as an outsider to that situation. You don't have the relationship with that baby, so it feels very individual. So I think one of the most important things is if you know somebody who's going through a miscarriage, or you know somebody who's had a baby loss, it's about having that conversation and just saying, this is really awful, and I'm sure that you're feeling terrible, and can I make you a cup of tea? Do you want a hug? Those kind of things. They might seem small, but if somebody who's experienced miscarriage, they are enormously helpful.
Well, it's speaking with you, Emma. Let's speak on a happier note. Next time, Emma Kenny, psychologist and broadcaster. If you or the woman in your life has sustained a miscarriage, I know it is like saying death. How long did it take you to get over it? I mean, how long did it take you to get over the death of your father, your death of your mother, whatever? It is impossible to say. But the challenge is, particularly as well if you're the father of the child, the husband or boyfriend, partner, whatever it might be. If you're prepared to talk, we'll obviously have those conversations. We'll come back to our conversation about foreign aid. And as yet unseen, but potentially very serious COVID, due to the closure of hotels and pubs and bars, 30 million extra rats, more than 2 for each head of population. We'll look at that in more detail too. It's 9:30. You're listening to Breakfast with me, Nick Ferrari, here on LBC. The news is with Simon Conway.
Ministers are urging people to think carefully about who they mix with over Christmas, despite a temporary relaxation of coronavirus restrictions. Up to 3 households will be allowed to form a bubble for 5 days, but it won't include going to venues like pubs and restaurants. Plans to cut overseas aid are expected to be confirmed in the Chancellor Rishi Sunak's spending review later. Some senior Conservatives have criticised the move, which would suspend the UK's commitment to spend 0.7% of national income on foreign aid. The Duchess of Sussex has revealed she suffered a miscarriage earlier this year. In an article for the New York Times, Meghan describes carrying an almost unbearable grief. The weather, rain moving southeastwards across England and Wales, turning colder with sunny spells later, mainly dry and fine for Scotland and Northern Ireland, a high of 13 degrees.
Eddie Mayer on LBC.
You say he doesn't stand for anything, that he says whatever the people in front of him want to hear. Doesn't that suggest he might very well be a politician who's capable of resetting? If your analysis is right and he doesn't believe in anything, then maybe from today he'll believe in something different from what he believed last week when Dominic Cummings was there.
That's what naturally what Boris Johnson would do.
So he is capable of a reset.
Eddie Mayer, this afternoon from 4, LBC.
If you're looking for advice and tips on the big consumer issues, the place to be is the LBC Consumer Hour, every Friday from 9 p.m.
You're listening to the LBC Consumer Hour with me, lawyer Dean Dunham.
Good evening, Dean. Thank you ever so much for taking my call. Good evening. Thanks for taking the call.
How can I help?
Join Dean Dunham for the LBC Consumer Hour, every Friday evening from 9 with Which, the UK's consumer champion. Shop smarter with expert tips and advice.
I spy something beginning with T. Is it the new nightshade blue Volkswagen Tiguan R-Line SUV with an elegant leather multifunction steering wheel, wireless app connect, sleek IQ Light Matrix beam headlights, soft 30-colour ambient lighting, and a set of glossy 19-inch alloy wheels that we just passed? Nope. Oh, did it have the 20-inch wheels?
The new Volkswagen Tiguan, full of reasons to get excited. Contact your local retailer today. Some features mentioned, not standard, but available at additional cost.
When your office is sitting in the middle of your living room and the car's sitting in the garage all day, it's fair to say this year has been a little upside down. At least you're saving money on petrol, right? But when you're with Direct Line, you can save money on your car insurance too. With our new mileage money back, if you've been driving less than expected, we'll give you money back from your premium. Solving your problems if you're driving, saving you money if you're not. Come direct for car insurance. We're on it. Direct Line.
Policy must remain in force until end of policy term. Existing customers opt in any time. Minimum 1,000 mileage difference required, excluding van and optional extras.
The moment you realise that cold radiator isn't warming up, and you'll be working from home in your coat and gloves. The moment you realise you've British Gas Home Care boiler cover from just 46p a day, you're covered for both parts and labour. And of course, we'll follow social distancing guidelines. Buy selected home care products online by the 25th of November and get 1 month free. British Gas, here to solve. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply. Prices may vary by postcode.
Ah, the great British roast. When mobiles are set aside, the TV goes off, the family comes together, and everything stops. For the perfect roast, only Bisto Best Gravy will do. Made with real meat juices for that authentic, rich roasted flavour. Ah, Bisto.
Quick check, buy that fast. Get a credit limit of up to £1,500 when you need it. With an Ocean credit card. Check if you're eligible at ocean.co.uk without it affecting your credit score. It only takes a minute. Intelligent Lending Limited is a credit broker. Capital One is the exclusive lender. Representative 39.9% APR variable. Borrow and spend responsibly. The Ocean Credit Card. There for when you need it most. Visit ocean.co.uk.
It's Black Friday. Get super reliable Sky Broadband Superfast for just £25. And now with anytime calls. So everyone can stream, game and share. Because we guarantee you get the speed we promise or money back. It's now only £25 a month for 18 months plus £19.95 setup. For new and existing customers, hurry to sky.com. Offer is November 30th. Prices may change during contract. Sky Fibre area speed varies by locations. Average download speed 59 megabytes. Speed to hub must drop low. Minimum download speed 3 days in a row. 1 month's refund more at sky.com.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973.
Just come back to that protester who was arrested outside the House of Commons using 5 police officers. Andy Perkins, a 72-year-old environmental campaigner. How long do you leave her there? Overnight? You weren't saying that a few months ago. As long as she wants to stay there. If she wants to sit in front of the House of Commons, let her. That's what this country is about. Linda in Windsor. It's okay for the Met to arrest a peacefully protesting woman, but allow thousands to protest outside the French embassy because of offence caused to Islam, used in a freedom of speech exercise by a French teacher. BLM protests, Extinction Rebellion masks, other gatherings where many don't wear masks. This is ludicrous and outrageous. People need to be terrified. What is going on is sinister and needs to be stopped. David says, I'm British living in Denmark. For your information, the public here have protested outside Parliament 24 hours a day for 3 weeks until Sunday just gone. They're very upset with the regulations in the police state and have managed to stop the law, making the vaccine mandatory. Protesting is a civil right. Totally agree with you, David. You tell me you're in Copenhagen. And while the vaccine, absolutely you should take it, and I believe there's nothing to fear, but of course you can't make these things, you can't have state sanctioned on matters like that, I would suggest. On the subject of foreign aid, Ian in Andover. Do people know why it's 0.7 of GDP? It was because a Danish Christian group in the 1950s picked the figure, and that's the reason we now spend 14 billion. You might have thought if we spent a fortune like that, it would be based on better logic. I know not if that's true, but you know what? It wouldn't surprise me. Let's talk foreign aid now with Ian in East Grinstead. You're on the radio, Ian. Good morning.
Morning, Nick. The point I'd like to make is that, as it stands, it's an open-ended commitment. The original Cameron legislation called for not less than 0.7% of GDP. So we have this obscene sight at the end of the financial year of people rushing around trying to find things to throw money at in foreign countries.
Yep.
The legislation was changed to read not more than 0.7% of GDP. In that case, it could be adjustable and closely watched and sent to causes which really deserve to get money. Not like some of the things, what was it, a girl banned in Ethiopia always gets quoted and so on.
Yes.
And of course, the wealthier countries like India still receiving our aid, even though they have actually said, we don't want it. It's just, it would take some of the heat out of the disagreement within the Conservative Party if it was renegotiated as not more than 0.7%. Nobody could say, oh, well, you're cutting it, because the 0.7% is still there.
I hear exactly what you're saying. It makes sense to me, Ian. Thank you for hanging on the line to make your point. Barry in Swansea, you're on the radio now. Barry, good morning.
Greetings.
Hello, sir.
I think the average Joe in the street wouldn't mind if the projects were specific. And there was there was a report made, there were television programs where the money was being used and how it helped. I could see, for instance, solar panels in different parts of Africa, but I shouldn't think we should be giving money to China. That just sounds bonkers.
Well, yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of it. The one I've just highlighted, there's much more. £6.6 million to work out how much salt Chinese people put in their cooking. I mean, what on earth? Who on earth can justify that?
I mean, I wonder how these projects are not funded, but who organises them in the first place? I mean, do people approach the British Embassy? I don't know. I'd like to see a lot more detail, a lot more openness about where we're spending the money.
And also an audit trail, I think, would be jolly helpful and probably quite illustrative as well. Barry, thank you for that view. We'll return to this conversation in a moment. Now, as I've mentioned a couple of times, this is a concerning, dangerous, potentially lethal aspect of COVID, that during lockdown, Britain's rat population is believed to have grown by some 30 million due to the disused hotels, shops, pubs, factories and goodness knows what else. They're now believed to be around 150 rodents in this country. That's over 2 for each one of us. The empty premises have given the creatures more opportunity to find new places to shelter and to breed. Remember, they breed at a phenomenal rate. They need just a small hole in order to gain access while feeding off scraps from rubbish bins and other areas, particularly in the towns and the cities. Pest controllers reporting a lift of around 25% increase in call-outs to deal with rats this year compared to last. Oh, here we are. Rats breed incredibly quickly. They can have up to 6 litters a year with between 6 and 12. Did you know a young rat was called a pup? I didn't know that. Never knew that. 6 and 12 pups, it says here, in a litter. My God, and those then go on to breed within a year. Wow. Deserted city centres are bearing the brunt of the epidemic. A nest of rats was discovered last week in a statue yards away from City Hall in Birmingham, in the centre of a usually busy shopping area. It's believed London has 20 million rats, 2.4 million in Birmingham, 1.7 million in Leeds, 1.3 million in Glasgow. How do they work that out? They just make that up. Let's be honest about it. There's absolutely no way that they could know that. But let's turn to someone who does know everything we need to know about this troubling area. David Parnell is a pest controller and owner of D. Parnell Pest Control. They're based in Cheshunt in Hertfordshire. And I have to tell you, or ask you, sorry, have you been busy during lockdown, Mr. Parnell? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Very nice to speak to you.
Yes, sir.
I certainly have. And in fact, I've been harping on for several years now how rapidly the rodent population has been growing in this country. I totally agree with most of what the article has said. The last actual drainage or sewer, the last sewer survey that was actually done thoroughly was around about 10 years ago, and there was an estimated 70 million rats in the sewers then.
Right.
So the increase doesn't surprise me at all. I've found that over the last 3 to 4 years, call-outs have absolutely rocketed, absolutely gone.
And typically, where are they, David, if I may call you that? Are they in people's garages, in their lofts, in their gardens? Where are they building their nests?
Right, okay. Well, primarily rats will build their nests actually down in the sewers where they can find benching and where people are putting inappropriate waste into the drains.
Right.
I often see this. I lift the manhole cover and there's a rat sitting on a pile of old sanitary towels and things. I know it sounds a bit disgusting, but that's what it is. This is the nature of the beast that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
But by and large, what happens is they chew through the weak points within the drainage system, and that allows them to access buildings. Now, it's very important to realise that rodent teeth are as hard and as sharp as the best knife in the chef's drawer. So where we've got deteriorating drainage systems, we've got cast iron soil stacks that have been in the ground for 100 years and they're starting to rot through or rust through, and that's how they're getting into the building. 95% of all of the rat work that I do that are actually inside buildings is coming up through the drainage system. They need water every couple of hours.
Yes.
So that's it. And of course, we've got all the waste that we're putting down through the toilets and the things, and a lot of that, I have to say, is quite inappropriate.
What do you mean? Sanitary products? Is that what you're saying? Sorry.
It's all sorts of things that people are putting there. Lots of fat, lots of oil. To some people, the toilet is the best waste disposal system going.
I
so
see.
There's all sorts of rubbish that we're having to pull out of blocked drains and things. So I spend every day in a drain somewhere in London, undertaking either some form of a repair to the benching.
Sorry, what's the benching? It's twice you've said that word. What is a benching then?
Right, the benching is the concrete that surrounds each side of a gully, and of course that gradually starts to crumble over the years, and then of course rats burrow, and they're prolific burrowers.
And from your experience, when you consider the factories, the hotels, the bars that have been locked down, they will be, I imagine, great breeding grounds for these rats.
Absolutely, especially if there's food that's been stored in there that's not been used. With all of these restaurants and cafes and places like this, they should be clearing out any food that they've got. I've had several instances where rats have literally gnawed in through to the back of freezers and fridges to actually gain access to the contents of it. And they will do this, and of course they're completely unhindered because there's nobody there to hear them or see them or stop them.
I had no idea they bred at this level, 6 litres a year, perhaps 12 per litre.
Yes, that's right. Yep, exactly. And in fact, there's one small point that I will disagree on. Rats are actually sexually mature, literally within little more than about 3 to 4 months.
Really?
After that, away they go. They gallop away. Yep.
And they have more. Okay, just a couple of personal stories. What precautions do you have to take? Have you been bitten? And what's the biggest rat you've ever seen?
Right, biggest rat I've ever seen, Nick, was one that was 20 inches long, and I actually put a tape measure on that one.
Was that including its tail?
Including its tail, from the tip of its nose to the tip of its tail. It was 20 inches long.
My God, where was he or she?
Right, that was actually on a farm. It was an insecure grain store, and of course it just unlimited quantity of food, and they were very brazen, extremely brazen. Yeah, very brazen. As far as the precautions are concerned, I would suggest that certainly things like drainage surveys will always be, something that's necessary for someone buying a property. As far as concerned, we wear gloves, we wear, coveralls, etc.
Yeah.
Every time a rat is really going to bite you is if you grab it. I've had them run up my arm and jump off my back and done all sorts of things. When you're in a drain, Nick, they're running between.
Oh God, no.
It's the nature of the job, but I tell you what, it's a fantastic job.
No. Now listen, that was going to be my fail. David, it's like when I talk to dentists and I ask, why do you want to look at rotting teeth? Why do you want to be chasing rats around piles of poop all day long? Well, I've done worse actually in my career.
No, it's a fascinating job, and it's very rewarding for me to actually go into situations where so many people are petrified of these
That's
things.
me.
And quite rightly, and it's very rewarding for me to actually be able to go into these buildings and actually sort this problem out. Many times I get people phone up, I've got a rat in my kitchen, you go there, the door's all closed and boarded up, and you have to go in, close the door behind you, and you've got to start pulling things out, fridges and freezers, to try and find it, and then do away with it.
Oh, I'm fascinated speaking with you. Check out D. Parnell Pest Control. They're in Cheshunt. They're jolly busy, so you'll be lucky to get an appointment. David Parnell is the owner and pest controller. David, thank you for that. Your stories about rat infestation and also the political row going on concerning that financial statement follow the 9:46 LBC News headline. Simon Conway.
Scientists and doctors are warning the easing of restrictions on household mixing over Christmas is likely to lead to a rise in COVID infections. The Chancellor Rishi Sunak is widely expected to confirm later that he's cutting Britain's overseas aid spending. And the Duchess of Sussex has written an emotional article revealing she suffered a miscarriage in July. The weather, rain clearing to turn colder and more settled, a high of 13 degrees.
LBC travel line Joanne Webb on the M25 clockwise, so accused to junction 5 at the M26. And that was after an accident that happened earlier, but all the lanes are now back open. Problems in London on the North Circular Road in Ealing. They're accused because a lorry has broken down just by Queen's Drive, and that's going southbound. Now, these problems do continue on the M1 in Northamptonshire. One lane's had to be closed northbound just after junction 16 at Daventry, where a car has broken down. And on the trains, there are no services between Basingstoke and Southampton Central, and that's because of an ongoing investigation at Winchester, and all the lines are currently blocked.
Coming up at 10 on LBC, James O'Brien.
It's beginning to feel a lot like Christmas, but has the government got it right regarding relaxations?
James O'Brien on LBC.
After the year we've had, everyone deserves to have a stress-free festive shopping season. You can say that again. Get Christmas cooking at tkmaxx.com for amazing big brand gifts for all your loved ones. And they deliver straight to your door. Splendid. Find big love at small prices this Christmas at tkmaxx.com.
This Black Friday, get super reliable Sky Broadband Superfast for just £25. And now with anytime calls. So everyone can stream, game and share. Because we guarantee you get the speed we promise or money back. It's now only £25 a month for 18 months plus £19.95 setup. For new and existing customers, hurry to sky.com. Offer ends November 30th. Prices may change during contract. Sky Fibre area speed varies by locations. Average download speed 59 megabytes. Speed to hub must drop below minimum download speed 3 days in a row. 1 month's refund more at sky.com.
At the Halifax, we know that catching up and checking in on each other has never been more important. So this year, when our customers couldn't come into a Halifax branch, we picked up the phone and gave them a call. We've made over 250,000 wellbeing calls so far, and we'll keep checking in on our customers throughout the winter months, just to see if they're doing okay. Halifax, it's a people thing.
This is the sound of business owners bossing their day with Sage.
Fish delivery, bossed. Invoices, sorted.
Clients workout, boss. Expenses smashed.
Tax return done.
Take control of business. New financial tools from Sage. Boss it. Get 6 months free then from £12 at sage.com. Terms and conditions apply.
It's Black Friday on eBay, and with up to 50% off, what's not to love? Love Christmas shopping in your PJs?
Black Friday on eBay.
Love a tech refurb deal?
Black Friday on eBay.
Then you'll love eBay's up to 50% off Black Friday. Buy, sell, eBay.
At Tesco, every little helps goes way beyond helping with your shopping. A little help is
donating 2 million meals a month to local communities.
Or supporting 350 young farmers to get started.
A little help is training over 1,000 community cooks with Jamie Oliver.
or helping us build a new football pitch.
It's 5,000 free phones from Tesco Mobile. So
We can all stay connected.
a little help makes a big difference.
Tesco, every little helps. Equivalent meals based on average monthly donations in 2019 and 2020 and 420 gram meal weight.
Ah, the great British roast. When my buzzer set aside, the TV goes off, the family comes together, and everything stops. For the perfect roast, only Bisto Best Gravy will do. Made with real meat juices for that authentic, rich roasted flavour. Ah, Bisto.
You run a small business. You know times have been tough, and things today are very different. But whatever's changed, one thing has stayed the same. Looking after your team is as important as it's ever been. So it's good to know the support they need right now is right here. From talking to GPs and nurses day and night, to fast access to expert advice on worrying cancer symptoms, or sharing what's on their mind with mental health specialists. Get a quote from Bupa today. Search Bupa Business Health Insurance.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973.
It's Black Friday this week, but thanks to consumer champion Which, I'll be looking at whether this is the best time to shop and what are your rights. I called up Adam French, Senior Consumer Rights Editor from Which, to discuss this further. Adam, thanks for coming on. Candidly, do you really get bargains on Black Friday?
That's a really good question. No. And, the answer is...
You got John, good morning. You want what? No, not on this number.
And one of the, I suppose, upsides of the fact that we won't be hitting the high street this year, we won't be fighting in the aisles over the last flat screen TVs. It means you can go online, you can have a short list, you can know exactly the products you're after, and make sure you are sort of picking up those best deals that are for you on the products that you want.
Let's look at the online world, Adam. What happens if you order it online? It doesn't arrive, or B, it's not what you expected, or you don't like the look of it.
Well, it goes to show how important it is to do your research. Again, we know so many people are disappointed by things they buy online. We found last year around 1 in 5 people said they were disappointed by something they bought during the Black Friday sale. So this is a common problem. The good news is if you buy it from a reputable online retailer, the consumer law applies, and as long as you haven't bought something that's personalised or a hygiene product, you have every right to return that for up to 14 days from the date of delivery for a full refund. That law has been introduced because you can't inspect things online like you would in store. So you do have that extra protection, and most retailers worth their salt will offer returns above and beyond that. Now you have to be a little bit careful when you're dealing with retailers you're not familiar with. Maybe you've followed an advert from social media, you've gone through to a retailer that looks trustworthy but you're not quite sure. In those cases, we do know sometimes those retailers don't really deliver the quality products you're expecting, and returns can be tricky, often asking you to send it all the way back to China, for example, and covering the postage costs there.
We've talked about the potential pitfalls then, Adam. Just lastly, what are the tips so that you can get the most out of, or you can enjoy Black Friday?
The most important thing is to have that short list of products you're after and try not to get sucked in by the hype. You don't want to end up spending money you don't really have, buying products on a whim, knee-jerk reaction to offers that don't actually stack up. So the best thing to do is to have that short list ready of the products you're after, the presents you're after this year, whatever you want to treat yourself to this year. It's been a long enough year, you owe yourself a bit of a treat. But make sure you have that short list, make sure you know how much you roughly expect to pay for it. That way you can spot whether a deal is worthwhile or not. And if you're spending a lot of money, that's a good idea to use a credit card if you can, because it comes with extra protection. So if anything goes wrong, say the retailer goes bust, the product goes missing, your credit card company is jointly liable as well. So in that case, you can make a claim for money back from your credit card company in the worst case scenario. So there's an extra protection there as well.
All right, Adam, just a high-end watch for me this year, mate. If that's okay, if I can put you down for that, I'd be grateful.
No worries. I'm sure we can rustle something up.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks to Which. For more information about your consumer rights when shopping online, go to which.co.uk.
This is LBC with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
We've talked about the Duchess of Sussex sustaining a miscarriage. A lot of people coming in on this. Diane says, I had 6 in total, 3 before having our son and another 3 before having our daughter. It's heart-wrenching. But apart from close family and friends, no one else knew. You pick yourself up and carry on. I don't know why Meghan wants to be in the public eye with her piece in the New York Times. Sue in West Sussex, I had 3 miscarriages between my first and second children. Having a healthy child doesn't alleviate the grief. In fact, I found it harder because having a child and finding out I was pregnant again, I started picturing that baby in the life I hoped it would have been. Before I had a child, pregnancy was something hypothetical for me. It really was not hopeful to say you have a healthy baby. I'm sure it wasn't. I was only exploring that. On the subject of the rat catching, this comes in from Kyle in Liverpool. I have pet rats. They're extremely clever. They don't bite unless they fear for their life. They're beautiful creatures. They're pets, not pests. And I love my Rolo. Well, he's not stuck down your drain. That's the difference, isn't it? And in Cornwall, because our church has not been used and closed, mice and bats have taken over the church. It's a mess. Fabric and furniture destroyed. Or sorry, damaged, you put. D says, maybe we should spend a portion of the 0.
Mr Sunak is also widely expected to cut Britain's overseas aid spending, a move criticised by some senior Conservatives. A member of the government's SAGE committee says plans to allow 3 households to mix over Christmas will be throwing fuel on the COVID fire. People across the UK will be allowed to form a bubble for 5 days from the 23rd of December. Professor Andrew Hayward fears it's likely to lead to a third wave of coronavirus. Ministers are urging people to exercise caution despite the relaxation of the rules. The Duchess of Sussex has revealed she had a miscarriage earlier this year. Meghan has written about her experience, saying she was sharing her story because losing a child remains taboo. Our correspondent Rachel Venables has more.
In an emotional piece written for the New York Times, the Duchess writes how one morning in July she was holding her son Archie when she felt a sharp cramp. She says she dropped to the floor, realising as she clutched her first child she was losing her second. Meghan, who moved to California with husband Prince Harry earlier this year, talks also about how miscarriage is an almost unbearable grief experienced by many but talked about by few.
Joe Biden says the Irish border must remain open after Brexit. The US president-elect has insisted the idea of having a border north and south once again being closed is just not right. He's previously warned a breach of the Good Friday agreements would threaten the prospect of a trade deal between Britain and the US. A watchdog has ruled an advert for London black cabs exaggerated how much they could reduce the spread of COVID-19. It claimed that being in the back of a taxi was like being in a bubble, which the advertising regulator found to be misleading. In the city a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading down 9 points at 64.22. The pound buys $1.33 and €1.12. And the weather, rain moving southeastwards across England and Wales, turning colder with sunny spells later. Mainly dry and fine for Scotland and Northern Ireland, a high of 13 degrees. From Global's newsroom, I'm Simon Conway.
Every Black Friday deal acts like it's a mind-blowing, once-in-a-lifetime deal. You'd be crazy to miss. Well, doesn't I prefer a Black Friday deal without the spiel? Like broadband for just $17.99 a month, plus a £50 reward card. A Black Friday deal that's actually a great deal? That'll do. Search PlusNet Broadband now. Offer ends 2nd of December, CPI plus 3.9% increase in June 2021, then each March from 2022. 18-month contract, new customers only, reward card claim by email within 2 months, terms apply.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with James O'Brien.
It's 3 minutes after 10. A very good morning indeed to you. Strange times are continuing. I don't think there are any prizes for that particular insight. I will, of course, be introducing you to, steering you towards Rishi Sunak's spending review at approximately 12:30 today. It will, if tradition is observed, be one of those occasions where I hand you into Sheila Fogarty's capable hands a little earlier than usual, so don't miss that. I think we'll take PMQs shortly prior to that as well, just to get the lie of the land. Is Johnson back in the saddle yet, or is he still doing it down his weird, dodgy Wi-Fi connection? I thought, well, we shall find out. The tension might kill us all, seriously. The suspense is close to unbearable. And now Christmas is coming. I think, you know, we can all record our deep sadness on the news that Meghan Markle, or the Duchess of Sussex as is, has revealed a miscarriage in July. I do, it looking at these two, I just think are begging us now for a modicum of humanity. Just treat us like human beings. You know, that's all. Just remember that we're human. I wonder if she hadn't been on the receiving end of such vicious and obviously racist abuse from almost every corner of the British media, whether she would even have felt compelled to reveal this personal tragedy. Just please remember that we're humans. So today's topic is, how much time do we take off being racist about Meghan Markle as a response to the news that she's had a miscarriage? Is it 1 day, 2 days, or no days at all? Up next, it's the royal editor of the Daily Bugle to struggle really to disguise his disdain for the woman without really being able to explain what it is about her he doesn't like, except of course her skin colour. Oh, and her gender. That's not fair. Some of them have got misogyny mixed up with the racism. So we will confine ourselves to expressing humanity and sympathy, which shouldn't be difficult, should it? But we are where we are. 5 minutes after 10 is the time. Let me turn your attention next to Christmas, and I'm going to have a crack at explaining to you what I think is happening here. Okay? Whew. So, I want you to imagine... What's the best way to do this? I want you to imagine a 30-centimetre ruler. Alright? Keith, pay attention, because you are the man on the Clapham omnibus for this. If I see a blank look crossing your face, that will suggest to me that I have lost my audience. Can you imagine a 30-centimetre ruler? A ruler that is split into 3 10-centimetre compartments or lengths, right? Okay? Now, in the middle compartment is the Christmas that we would have had if they hadn't relaxed the rules. Okay? To the right of that are people that would perhaps err on the side of caution, i.e. they'd be even more careful than they needed to be. To the left of the middle section are all the people who were planning instead to break the rules. It seems to me that the relaxation is designed in the hope of tempting the people who were already planning to break the rules to break them a bit less than they were going to. So if you were going to have 5 families round, the idea now is that you'll only have 2 families round, 3 in total, mixing over the 5-day period of Christmas. It has, it seems to me, in other words, been designed to, what's the word? Price in is the word that they use all the time these days, isn't it? Price in misbehaviour, where my instincts, and I'm just one person and my instincts are not reliable, but my instincts would lead me, were I in charge, to use the rules and regulations to deal with the people planning on not being careful and address legislation towards what is the best case scenario for everybody. So I was really troubled to hear that bloke from Sage in the news describing it as throwing petrol on the bonfire of COVID-19. And I'll tell you why I'm particularly troubled this morning. It's because I felt myself moving on this. We got up this morning, Mrs. O'Brien and I, having our traditional early morning conversations about what's on the family agenda and our various to-do lists and the time we got the kids up, all that sort of thing. And the question of what are we going to do for Christmas? And I think we both caught each other thinking, well, maybe we'll be a little less careful than we were going to be, because we are allowed to be less careful than we are going to be. And a caller mentioned this on Monday, and I'm not sure that I gave them quite as much credit as I should have done. Because until it happens, you don't know what you're going to do you? Until the ball lands at your feet in front of the goal, you have no idea. You can go through it a million times in your mind, but until the moment actually arrives, you've got no clue, have you, how you're going to respond. You know, stage fright, or just sort of losing the plot a little bit, or getting scared, or the opposite. Do you know what I think of? Don't laugh. I always think back to being a young lad who was rather fond of playing cricket but not terribly good at it. And the one thing I was quite good at was fielding. I couldn't bowl to save my life. Actually, millimetres from your hands, you've got no idea whether you're going to catch it or not. And I found as a kid that the minute I entertained the possibility that I might drop it, I would drop it. So you learn at a very early age a sort of form of mental conditioning. They'd probably pay me a fortune for this if I was teaching the England rugby team at the minute, but it's all about a positive mental attitude. If you somehow, this is why they pay sports psychologists the mega bucks, you know, particularly golfers, actually, because golf, it seems to me, is more susceptible to the yips than almost any other physical pursuit on the planet. But for me, it was cricket. As a 12-year-old boy, the minute it entered my head that I wasn't going to catch that ball, then even if I was well placed and my technique was perfect, somehow my fingers would turn to butter and the ball would slip through them every time. If I could somehow keep the possibility of dropping it out of my head, I usually would catch it, almost always in fact. perform better instinctively than you do when you've had the time and the space to contemplate failure. So if you are, just to abandon, to complete the cricket analogy, if you're a wicket keeper, you very rarely have any time at all to contemplate failure. You are being judged by your reflexes. You dive to the right, you dive to the left, you scoot the ball over the top of the bench. Yada bing, yada boom. I used to love being wicket keeper, but I was rubbish at it, which is why I'm stuck out on the boundary watching this ball come down with snow on it. So it's all about that moment, and until you reach that moment, you've got no idea how you will respond. So on Monday, when we talked about the relaxation of Christmas regulations, I thought I was one of those people that would I thought that our family would be pretty much doing what we planned to do, even if the regulations gave us way more freedom, gave us way more latitude to do things that we weren't planning to do. And yet, I am always, as you know, honest with you, because I can't ask you to be honest with me unless I'm honest with you. This morning, I, much to my own surprise, and I think, I haven't checked with her, but I think Mrs. O'Brien was feeling the same, and I just said she was less likely than I was to drop the ball in the outfield. But I think today we felt ourselves wobble. What are we going to do? We're going to see my mum. We're going to see your mum. We're going to see the cousins. What are we going to do? We're going to go for it. Yeah, bing, yeah, boom. And because the government has said it's okay to do that, somewhere inside, psychologically, not politically, not with this shout, but somewhere inside, psychologically, I suppose because my inner obedient schoolboy has not been complete retreat, I found myself wobbling. I'm pretty sure that we will actually stick to what we had planned last week and behave as if that 5-day hiatus doesn't have any rules or regulations attached to it that involve a relaxation of where we are now or where we'll be on December the 20th. But that's why I'm worried about it. That's why I'm worried about it. Because you've got these three constituencies of people. People who were not going to behave responsibly. People who were going to behave responsibly, completely within the parameters of what was allowed. And people who were going to behave even more responsibly than they had. Right? That was the 10 centimetre compartments on my ruler. People who were going to be irresponsible. People who were going to be adequately responsible, and people who are going to be more responsible than they need to be. So think of those three constituencies of people. It doesn't matter how many are in each one. Those are the three categories, right? People behaving irresponsibly, people observing the rules very carefully, and people being even more careful than they need to be. Now, as far as I can see this morning, the relaxation is not going to bring anybody who was planning to behave irresponsibly closer to behaving responsibly. It just gives them license to do what they were going to do anyway without facing sanction or being guilty. In fact, if they were already prepared to go further away from the rules that were required before the rules changed, this could even mean that people who were already planning on having 3 families getting together when they were only allowed 1, by telling them that they're now allowed 3, they might think, well, why don't we have 5? Reach the before the regulations were written. What possible motivation would there be for you to behave more responsibly? And then you've got the people who are going to be correct. My question for you this morning is whether or not this is going to backfire, because it means that people are going to be less careful over Christmas than they would have been if things had stayed the same. Okay? What do you think? So part of you can tell me what you're going to do, and the other part of you can do what I've just done and indulge in a little bit of psychological pontification regarding everybody else. I think they've muffed it up. I hope they haven't, but that comment from the Sage contributor just focused my mind this morning. Why have they done this? Has it changed your plans, is the question I want you to answer. And I really want you to answer it honestly. I have. I can see that it might do. It shouldn't, and it probably won't, especially not now I've confessed it all on national radio, but I think it might. Give me a call now, tell me whether the relaxation of the rules is likely to change your Christmas plans. And in which direction? Because my point in a nutshell is I can't imagine anybody, as a result of what the government have announced, being more careful about the coronavirus than they were planning to be already. I can only imagine people being less careful. Your thoughts on 0345 6060 973 is the number you need. It's 1070.
This is LBC. Are you the owner of fine wines or rare whiskies? You could sell them effortlessly at thelondonwineseller.com. With hundreds of 5-star reviews on Google, ask for a valuation. We'll get back with a cash offer you'll love. No waiting for brokers or auctions. The London Wine Cellar guarantee to beat any competitor's cash offer with immediate payment terms. Conditions and guarantee information on our website. From one special bottle to an investment portfolio, look no further. Visit thelondonwineseller.com.
Somewhere there's a story of a missing Christmas letter. Not here though, because Lidl's award-winning drinks are better. With the world's best Cremant de Loire brew for $8.49 and Hortus gins and liqueurs from just $9.99. Lidl. They got a Christmas.